So what we're going to deal with today is neurotropics. We're going to deal with super learning. NFA had a meeting last week in which I spoke at the meeting about the meeting was about teaching. So I talked about the education system, how it's all screwed up, and how we need to adopt a non-Western teaching method for people of color. Because we learn differently. We're right brain learners. White people are left brain learners. So they've pretty much indoctrinated the world into left brain thinking. The idea is you want to be both integrated. You want to be both right and left brain. That's the natural thing. But we're being forced to learn left brain. What is left brain? Left brain is Sebek. So it's primarily learning through verbal dissemination of information, rote memorization, the lecture type learning, to where everything is external. So in other words, what passes for learning in Western society is the memorization of information. And it's just purely information. But that's not really learning. That's just you're being passed on information, which you regurgitate the information. The ancient scholars, the geniuses like Imhotep, Nikolai Tesla, they were integrated brain thinkers. They weren't left brain thinkers. So that means they incorporated a learning method that included both verbal dissemination and trance induction. Trance is a right brain thing. And I talked about the Russians, how the Russians were discovered super learning, and it's based primarily on right brain thinking, to where the class, there's no lecture. You go into a state of trance and the information is given to you. But we must understand this. One of the problems why the system is broken is because we believe that passing on information is actually learning. So if I originate something, if I originate a principle E equals MC squared, and then you go to university and you learn E equals MC squared, you're learning E equals MC squared, but you're not learning the thought process of how I arrived at that. That's really genius level, because if you can mimic my thought process, you become just like me. But all you're doing now is you're just learning the equation. So, and then we go through every new crop of students with information just passed on from one to another. You don't want second, third-hand information. You want to understand the techniques by which that person thought, how they arrived at the genius level thinking. Just like Nikolai Tesla, they asked him, like, how do you come up with all this great stuff? He says, well, I visualize it first. I can visualize an engine, and I can know if it'll work or not, because it's all in my mind. So if we can learn to do things like that, have photographic memory, to visualize things in the right way, then we become geniuses ourselves. But all we ever do is sit in the classroom and get passed on information and get tested on our ability to regurgitate it. That's not learning. You've acquired no information. And that's really dumbing down society. That's what it's meant to do that. This system is meant to do that. So in the Kemetic learning system, and especially with the Russian super learning, we understand that there are faculties within you that process information. And when those faculties are working at 100%, then you're going to be at your normal genius level. And those faculties are segregative learning, the ability to separate things, label and define; congregative faculty, the ability to see how things fit together, to bring them together; analytical faculty, to be able to analyze things; and then it's a synthesizing faculty, to be able to bring things together and have them work together in a synthesis way, so it kind of forms a new paradigm. So we have to keep that in mind, that there are these faculties that we have to nurture. And those faculties, the way that they are awakened is through sound vibration, sound frequency. And the ruling elite puts out a sound frequency that traps us in left brain segregative thinking, because they don't want us to start. Because when you start thinking holistically and whole brain thinking, you start thinking in terms of context and relational thinking, which is how you should. In other words, you will say that there's no such thing as male without female, because female gives context to male, and that's how you know that it's a male. So you have to have contextual thinking. You have to say, okay, well, one cannot exist without the other. One defines the other. In a society, they try to look at things in an isolated box and then try to come up with ideas and concepts of just that one thing without looking at the total scope of things and how they relate to one another. The reason we know that there is a God because we understand that there's an interdependence and interrelationship between all things. There's an ecosystem. How that ecosystem put things together so right that everything has a function. The bees pollinate, the animals defecate, and it kind of like feeds the soil, so the soil becomes rich and can grow. How did all this depend on each other? How did this interdependence come about? It came about through a divine intelligence that put it all together. And then divine intelligence is what you're connected to and call the Akashic Records, or the Tahuti faculty. Tahuti is the ability to learn from within and not from without. Seeking knowledge outside of yourself is not true learning, it's not true wisdom. It's only when you still the thought process, you stop thinking, can you connect with the Akashic Records. So we have to understand that clearly, that what's going to make us great people is the ability, or our genius level thinking, is the ability to integrate both the left and right hemisphere of the brain. This is how the ancient Kemetic people, the Mayan people, the Chinese people create things like the I Ching, the pyramids, because they were integrated brain thinkers. Along comes Western science that thinks primarily in the left brain, and they create things technologically, but in their wake, it destroys the planet. They have radiation and things like that, so they don't think holistically, so they can't see the ramifications on the things that they create. Where when we had great cities like Atlantis that was based on crystals, we had power crystals, we had all kinds of technology that was from the earth. So there was no pollution and radiation and all that, but yet it was a high technology civilization. So I want you just to kind of think about that, you know what I mean? So when we're trying to learn, the worst thing you can do is try to learn from the external perspective by just acquiring information. Just like I see a lot of these people in the Kemetic culture who pretend to be Kemites and still adopt the Western way of learning. I said, so what? You're teaching an Afrocentric curriculum where you're putting black faces on it. That's not really learning. That's the same your Western European way of doing it. So you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you don't know. And they're very ignorant. And I can't go along with that form of thinking because it creates problems. And there's a very famous man who said that we are sick, and we are sick. Because when you're primarily focused on left brain thinking, that's a sickness. That's what's caused the witch hunts that cause sexism, racism. Because the inability for the left brain to understand complements and understand opposites. It doesn't understand those, so it tries to eradicate. This is where all the problems in the world come from, is stuck in left brain thinking. Left brain will never, ever come to an understanding of opposites. It always sees them as enemies, the opponent. The idea of the Hegelian dialectic, where you start with your premise, you have your thesis and antithesis, right? And then you come up with your synthesis. That is so damning and so dangerous of a thought process, because you're saying that the truth can be arrived at through a synthesis of the thesis and antithesis. No, because when you come up with a thesis and you say that there's an antithesis, which is a direct opposite, you now created a problem in the world where there wasn't a problem. You now see something as an opposite polarity. You should actually see it as a complementary thing, not as a contradictory thing. We are sick because we can't stop thinking in those terms. We don't have the ability to synthesize. Everything that we think of is labeled, defined, and then we don't look at in terms of contextual relational thinking of it. You know what I mean? How do you arrive at the truth? Well, the Greeks said you start with the thesis and then an antithesis. Well, the ancient Egyptians says the truth comes through relational thinking. How do you, like, for example, should you kill? Well, I can't tell you if killing is good or bad until you tell me the context. What's the situation? Then I'll tell you if it's right or wrong. But the Bible just says, thou shalt not kill. That's left brain thinking. It doesn't look at contextual thought process. It doesn't look at relational thinking. It deals in absolutes. Thou shalt not kill. That's it. But wait a minute, aren't there times when you should kill? It does not look at context. That's what gets us into trouble. That's what the problem is with the Western way of thinking. That's what the problem is with the Western universities. The ancient Greeks had problems. If you read Herodotus' histories, he was the Greek historian. If you read about ancient Greek, you'll know that they got into a paralysis. They could not come and understand certain things because all they did, they thought it was to understand life was about to have debates. So they had their Senate and they were constantly arguing and debating things. But if you look in China, what did China and Buddha and Lao Tse and Kung Fu say? What did they do? They meditated to arrive at an understanding of the universe. There was no debate. There was no lecture. It was all about going within and intuiting the wisdom and the knowledge. That's a very high form. That's why Tahuti's on the top of the tree of life. So let's understand this. We have a system of Western learning that really is predicated upon the passing on of information, right? And it doesn't take into consideration that everybody has a different learning processor. Now, they are coming closer to understanding these things because they've come up with the different processes. Where we talk about, and we bring it down to a science, segregative, congregative, analytical, and synthesizing, they bring it down to kinesthetic, tactile, auditory, and visual, which is great. What that means is that we all learn in a different way. I learn through tactile. Other people learn through visual. Most of the Western world learns through auditory. And I remember going in school, I used to say this, and no one believed me. I said that the way that we're being taught is putting people to sleep, where you have a professor who stands up at the class and teaches for 90 minutes. I said, that puts people to sleep. That's not really learning. Now they realize that was a big mistake. So now it's predicated more on an interaction, dialogue, questioning and answering. But before, when I was in college, to ask a lot of questions, they thought you were a troublemaker. No, it kept me from falling asleep during this long-ass lecture. There was no context to things presented to me. It was just like, here it is, learn it, and then you're going to be tested on it. But what's the context? I don't understand. How did you arrive at this? Remember I told you that when I test you, I don't test you just on if the answer is right or wrong, but more so how you arrived at the answer. That's important because it shows me your thinking process. That's very important. Are you on a genius level thinking, or are you just passing on or learning information that was given to you? See, project manager needs to be problem solver. And the way you be a problem solver is that you have your faculties working. It's not going to be how you just read up on project management and think you know it. And that's what I did. I studied for 6 months on project management. And when I got into the field, I had problems. Yes, you can learn things, but you have to understand that there's a certain way that they think. And if you can mimic that way of thinking, you'll be a good project manager. So I watched other project managers. I looked and saw how they thought. And I looked at account managers and looked and saw how they thought. And I tried to mimic that way of thinking. What I tried to mimic was their temperament, the way they approach things, their regiment, their routine. And then I got better. But then I found out there was a serious problem. I was still falling behind. But why was I falling behind? I couldn't figure out until I realized that learning is just not about the mimicking of the thought process, but there are certain things within you that can be deficient from a vitamin perspective. This is where I had to incorporate neurotropics. I had to say to myself, you know, what's going, and I noticed it by accident that if I take certain things, I became better at what I was doing. So I called up a friend in priesthood and I said, look, I'm really doing terrible in project management. I'm afraid I'm going to be fired. He says, I'm going to send you some stuff. He sent me all these vitamins to take, and it cost me around $300. I purchased them, and for the next 4 months, they called me a rock star. I was kicking ass. And I realized I was missing certain essential vitamins. But we don't understand this in the Western way of thinking that, you know, you need supplements that can help you. Lo and behold, now Silicon Valley That's all these guys do in Silicon Valley. They take a lot of neurotropics. They also take micro doses of LSD to help them think better. If you go to Silicon Valley, they're very, very big on neurotropics because they have to work long hours. They have to think through complicated problems and come up with solutions. As a project manager, neurotropics can take you to the next level in the field, in your life. And I do a lot of this study into super learning. And when I was at the NFA meeting, I was talking a lot about how if you really want these young kids the so-called minority kids to succeed, it's not about getting the curriculum or getting the school system to change. It's about you teaching them super learning. And whether the system changes or not, they're going to excel. You can go the political route and trying to petition the Board of Education or the system to do this, do that. But I chose to focus on neurotropics and say, look, this is what's going to make me good. And it has. In every way. In every way. But now we get into the metaphysical and the esoteric part. Because modern psychology will admit that, as far as NLP is concerned, neuro-linguistic programming, there's a way that you can program yourself to excel and be better. But what they don't tell you is a big secret is like when you start to work on the mind and you start reprogramming yourself, you actually change your physical reality. And I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm not going to mention this ever again, but hypothetically, if someone paid me to come here to Vegas, because there's a lot of gambling in Vegas, and they said, you know how to manipulate reality, right? I go, yeah. Show me how to bet and win. And someone paid me, I could show them that. So I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying.
Hypothetically.
Yes, hypothetically. Got a guy who told me to teach him dating, to coach him. And he asked me a bunch of questions. He says, well, how do you approach a girl? I said, I don't approach a girl. He says, what do you mean? I said, they approach me. He says, what do you mean? I said, well, when you start dealing in the higher levels of reality transurfing, of reality manipulation, you'll know how to manipulate the very fabric of reality so that you can create situations to where people approach you. I did it all the time when I was networking. I would tell acting students, you don't need to go to networking events or try to find an agent. They'll come to you if you know what you do, if you do it right. I used to sit up 3, 4 in the morning working on PowerPoint presentations. And I would look at technical things and I would get stuck on some things and then be afraid the next morning that the client would ask me about that and I wouldn't have an answer until I came across the kinetic system. And I said, oh, I can create a situation where the client won't ask me that. If I meditate and focus on how I want the meeting to go, the client won't ask that. I can make sure of it. If I go to the I Ching and I ask the I Ching what's going to be the topic of tomorrow's conversation in our client meeting, the I Ching will tell me. If I go for an interview and I want to land the interview and ask the I Ching, what do I need to do in order to get to win the job, the I Ching will tell me. This is the higher learning stuff that we need to tap into. But they have so dumbed down society that people don't believe in this stuff. It's very difficult to get people to buy into this. If I tell you that tomorrow you can set the topic of discussion in the meeting, you wouldn't believe me. You mean, what do you mean? I said, you can actually change what will be talked about tomorrow in that meeting if you know how to do it properly. I've had situations where meetings would be set for tomorrow and I just wasn't prepared. I was like, God, I'm not prepared. I need another 2 days. And I said to myself, you're a magician. Don't worry about it. That meeting won't happen. It won't happen. Something will come up. Woke up in the morning, it got canceled. So if you know what you're doing, you can live an extraordinary life. You gotta first believe that. You gotta believe. I showed it to my friend the other day. He thought I was joking when I said, no, the women approached me. He's like, yeah. So we went to the bar to get a drink. I got me a ginger ale, and I'm walking down the stairs, and the woman is in back of me, and she was with her boyfriend, I believe, and I didn't want no trouble. She stops, turns and looks at me, comes up a few stairs and says, can you hold my drink? And then she grabs my arm so I can walk her down the stairs, and her boyfriend's turning back looking at me, and I'm going, oh crap. I'm like, I don't know what this is about. I don't know why I'm getting upset at me. And my friend's just like, he's like, what, do you know her? I'm like, no, I don't know her. But this is the type of thing that can happen if you buy into it. But we place limitations on ourselves by telling us that the only thing that exists is the physical realm. So that's what the Matrix is going to create, is a physical realm with no power, no magic. But if you believe in magic and you believe in this stuff, it will work. It'll work for you. I'm telling you, there were times where I was just throwing up in the bathroom because I was so afraid of a meeting, because I wasn't prepared. I was so nervous until I calmed myself and I said, they're not going to ask me any questions. They're not. Go back to the meeting, they ask me one question. Because you're going to get in a situation as a project manager where you may not be prepared for a meeting, you may not have an answer for the client, and you're going to be shitting bricks. You know what I mean? But you got to be calm and you got to handle it. You know what I mean? It's tough. Any questions so far?
Let me get back to you on that. Never say no.
All right.
No, one thing you taught me, Ron, was when I took your reality manifestation course was we're going to generate reality regardless. So why not control what you want to just see, what you want to generate?
And most times you generate a negative reality because it's fear-based programming. You've been programmed to be afraid of lots of things. So you're always going to generate a negative outcome. And you have to stop.
You know about that?
What's that? What's the question?
So what are the negative effects, or are there any negative effects
Effects of what?
of creating this negativity or adjusting reality?
There are a lot of negative effects that because you're creating reality right now, and you've been taught to create a negative reality. Everything around you is an illusion. It's all a hologram. Give Michael Talbot's book, The Holographic Universe. He talks about training people in Vegas how to win at the craps table using this stuff. But one thing he talks about was everything around you is just Maya, an illusion. I know that when I talk to people, they're nothing but avatars. They're just my manifestation of my reality. It's called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. You are creating the reality that the ruling elite wants. You've got to stop doing that and start creating your own reality. The best way to do it is to meditate at least twice a day for 30 minutes. And meditate on having everything you want in your life in that meditation.
And some negative things, Lair, could be like you creating lack or obstacles in your life. How you said you were getting sued. Like you could have manifested that subconsciously, but those are just some examples.
I would, when I was very nervous and scared, every time I manifested something bad at a job. So as a project manager, when I would have a meeting, my computer would shut down. I would lose files all the time. The printer wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Client would come to the office unexpectedly. My team will be absent on important days. All this craziness would happen because I was so afraid, and that fear caused a lot of negative things to manifest. So we learned the best way to start out with creating the reality we want, especially at the job, is amen. You must be at peace. That is a prerequisite. You must be at peace. Guy, I was doing some dating coaching. He says, well, every time I talk to a girl, it goes badly. Because I said, you're stressed out. You're not at peace. You know? The other thing is you need to not think about the outcome. Divorce yourself from the outcome. Be caught up in the moment and just enjoy the moment. Don't think about, I want this to happen. I want this to happen, because that's stress. You have to be a total and complete relaxation. Rest assured that the outcome you want will happen without you thinking about it.
You have to tell yourself, no matter what, I'm at peace no matter what happens.
Yep, exactly. Don't stop wanting it, but just say,
don't be.
I'm at peace, you know? I'm at peace. And it's not real anyway. Nothing is real. Don't even buy into that fact that it's real.
What do you always say, Ron? Nothing exists apart from the observer.
Exactly. And you're creating it on a, you know who really talks good about this is Bashar. He really gets deep into this and talking about the phony reality and all that. So let's go on to the super learning aspect. All right. So I'm going to tell you honestly, when I was working at certain companies, there were people who were just brilliant. I couldn't keep up with them. They were smarter than shit. And they were so fast and so quick. And I was like, I wish I could be that way. They had years of experience on me. That was one factor, but they just, their processing power in their mind was just very good. When you want to learn something, especially everything I'm teaching you fairly quickly, you have to get into the learning state. And that's the alpha state. And that's like 8 to 13 hertz. The alpha state is like light trance. Okay. The next state, which is the best state, is a theta state, which is like 4 to 8 hertz. And that's kind of like when you lose awareness of who you are and you just are drifting so deep into the trance state that you're not aware of time and space. Athletes call things like that the flow state, where you get so wrapped up into something, you forget time, forget space, forget where you're at. That's a good feeling. All right. But let's just start the basic. You're in beta state right now. We want to get you in alpha state, 18 to 13 hertz. That's how you learn. All right. But again, I got to stress this. It all really boils down to being at peace. What I have found out in working with students, especially minority kids, they are stressed. They have things going on in their home, and this hampers their ability to learn. And I didn't realize how important it was to be at peace to learn until recently. I went years thinking, oh, I could just pick things up. But then I saw the difference between when I was in total relaxation state and fed information between when I was a little bit stressed and fed information. You're going to excel if you learn to be at total peace and relaxation. I was watching a guy, and my friend this is Kevin Samuels. He does dating videos on YouTube. And he was like, why is Kevin so smart? He's able to pick apart things. I said, it's not that Kevin's smart. He's at total peace. And he's able to intuit the information like that. He's not smart. I mean, he is a smart guy. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that he has the ability to be super, super relaxed. And somebody noticed that he drinks a lot of Red Bull. Like you'll see him drinking Red Bull. And I said, because you know why? Because he knows that his body chemistry is such that he's too relaxed. So he needs to pump it up a bit. But if you can get super relaxed like that, you will be coming up with solutions and things very easily. We get stressed out. They did a survey, they did a test, and they said, you have 1 second. Tell me, what's your phone number? And people couldn't remember it. Because when you put under the gun and that much stress, your brain locks. There's a paralysis. Versus being more relaxed, and I say, what's your phone number? And you can just go without the time constraint. You can just tell me. Being super relaxed will aid you in life so much. And the way to do that is meditation, meditation, meditation. I'm so sick of talking with people who think meditation is only, I'm at peace with the world. That's not it. Meditation is a programming tool. It's the way to program who you are. You are not who you are now is a program that was created by social engineering and your upbringing. You have never been in control of yourself. Never. You've always avoided pain and moved toward pleasure. That's not living truth, and it doesn't like really aid you. You have to learn to program yourself. This is why they created an entire field called neurolinguistic programming, NLP, where they use certain patterns of words to program the subconscious mind. It's very effective, very effective. And if you meditate and you go into trance and you send yourself commands while you're in that alpha state, you're going to be a master of the universe. What I want you guys to start doing, and this is the basic, simple thing, and it will improve your ability to be a project manager. I want you to start meditating twice a day, 30 minutes a day, and I want you to use the affirmation, I am. I am. And you will say, I am an expert in project management. Not I am good, I am an expert. I excel in project management. That's all you have to do. You see, when you tell the subconscious mind that you're an expert in something, it not only changes your psychology, it looks for information to feed to you to make you an expert. It accesses the Akashic records and it brings down information that you wouldn't have received through my teachings. People are like, how are you so good as a dating coach? I went into trance. I said, I am an expert with women. I am great with women. I am. Now I want to be. Now I will be. I am. Because the subconscious mind does not understand the past or the future. It only understands the now moment. Now people say, well, I've done stuff like that, but it never worked because you've only done it for a week or two. You've got to do this for a long period of time. Because the subconscious mind is like a well. You have to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into it until it sticks. So you say that affirmation over and over and over again. Here's the other part that will excel, will skyrocket your success. Your psychology follows your physiology. And I learned this. So after you do these meditations, I want you to one thing I was teaching in dating was I told the guy, when you walk, stick out your chest. Take up space when you sit. As a project manager, I started doing things like this. I started putting my feet up. Can anybody tell me why I was doing these things?
It goes with being that A personality type. You was being comfortable. You were,
Relax.
And it also relaxes me.
Mhm.
Super relaxed. Super confident. Not worried about anything. And I learned certain positions that will enable me to not only relax, but to demonstrate confidence, even though I may not have had confidence. You understand? I noticed that when I would listen to something and I wouldn't get it, I'd be like, I had to stop that. I had to just relax. So your physiology has to adapt and change. The way you walk, the way you talk. When I started asking questions, I had to learn to speak louder. I would always like stumble because there were so many people in the room and I was so nervous and I had to learn to stop stumbling. How did I do that? I just kept asking questions. And eventually I became comfortable with asking questions and I stop fumbling over my words. So people call it fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? But the body posture will change your psychology. It'll change everything here. Confidence is the most important thing in learning. When you start to think as if you're an expert, your mind will look for confirmation of that in the world. And when it looks for confirmation of that, it also changes the physical reality. People will start to like you more. You understand?
Yes.
The other thing you do is look for an archetype. If you see another project manager that you think is really good, visualize yourself as them. The archetypes help a lot. I always often when I was like, hey, I want to be an A-type personality, I would always admire James T. Kirk because he's A-type personality. And you see, you already have, and we talked about this in the program, Rashad, that you're in. You have an archetype already that you reference. You have to reference an image of yourself. The mind has to do that. But most times, the image it references is an archetype that you have created through happenstance, which is one that is not confident, makes mistakes, has low self-esteem. You've got to change that. Alchemy. And the way you do that is consistently picture the person you want to be, whether it be James T. Kirk, Captain Janeway, Marilyn Monroe, whoever you want. You have to visualize it in your head and keep that visualization going. Sometimes if I want to do a proper presentation, I can visualize myself as Anthony Robbins. You understand? It depends on the situation. So when I went to Silicon Valley, I spoke to some of the programmers and I spoke to the people who were taking the microdoses of LSD and all that. And I asked them, like, well, how do you really do this? They broke that stuff down to a science. They would literally take their neurotropics at particular times of the day. If they knew they had an intense morning of programming, they would take specific neurotropics for that period, and then take another mixture after lunch, depending upon what they needed to do. That's contextual. I thought that was very brilliant. I thought they would just take one and that would be it. So anyway, I wanted to throw that in because I digressed a bit, but I didn't want to forget that. So the archetype the trance state are very, very important. The meditations are important, but don't do a meditation when you're stressed out. If you have a meeting the next day and you're really stressed out the day before, and I've been that way, it's going to be hard to get into a meditation state. So prior to getting into your situations, meditate every day and see the way you want things to go at work. Now, here's what Bashar talks about, which is the, what do you call this? The Vera effect? I forgot what he called this, but it'll trip you up. So when you're doing this, like say, for example, I'll meditate today on how I want tomorrow will go. Tomorrow I'll go to work and things will be horrible. It'll fall apart. This is the feedback loop. This is reality saying, what do you want? Do you want this reality or do you want something else? If you respond to that bad day with emotionalism, it will reinforce it and give you more of that. If you just ignore it and be at peace, then you're indicating what the reality that you want. So you have to be very careful of that. This is why when things would not go well, I would try to just be at peace and keep the meditation going, stay the course, don't change. This is why a lot of people who try to do vision boards, law of attraction, The Secret, all this stuff fail because they will start to focus on what they want and the exact opposite happens and they get tripped up. They don't know why. I said, just a feedback. That's all. The reality is asking you, what do you want? Do you want the old reality or the new reality? You know? Whenever something like that doesn't work out for me, especially during a meeting, it's okay. I go back and I focus more on the original outcome I wanted. And eventually it shows up. And there are a number of reasons why it doesn't pop up right away. Because you're battling your old belief system. You have old belief systems that are really strong and they don't change easily. You got to battle them. You know what I mean? And I always talk about building a relationship with the spirit, meaning the subconscious mind. When you feel yourself in that daydreaming state, program yourself. What I mean by that is to visualize an outcome that you want in anything, but it must be charged. So what do I mean by charged? Say, for example, I'm going to work and I want to ask for a raise. And I'm starting to feel a little tired. That's the subconscious mind letting you know it's ready to be programmed. So I visualize myself going in there and asking for a raise and getting the raise. But that's not going to work because it's not charged. So it has to be charged. What do I mean by that? I have to do the visualization. Then when I see myself getting the raise, I've got to feel happy, elated, joyful. If I don't feel that, then the subconscious mind says, oh, this is meaningless. There's no emotion attached to it. So I have to charge it. Because that what is your highest excitement tends to manifest. So explore the emotion, the good feeling. Like I would go in and then when I would visualize the meeting, I would visualize myself and feel the excitement of completing the meeting and answering all the questions. And doing a good job. That's important. That emotion, that feeling. The universe works through emotions. It doesn't work necessarily through the auditory command. Yeah, you can tell the universe to manifest money, but it's going to manifest a lot quicker if you have the feeling of having the money right now. You understand?
Yeah.
That's the difference. One book you can get is really good. It's called The Einstein Factor. So make sure you get this book, which goes over a lot of super learning techniques. This is a good book, but it's a lot of theory. Super learning, a lot of theory. So if you, and it's also a little complicated, but if you want, you can get this book. And I would definitely recommend that you get yourself the I Ching and your Meduniter cards. Those are going to help you.
I'm sorry, what cards again?
Oh, it's Meduniter.
How you spell that?
METU NETER. And then this is the Ra initiation system, Metu Metta Volume 1. And this gives you mantras for your meditations. Mantras for being good at presentations, mantras for being good at memorization, mantras to relieve stress. So it has 72 of them. Now, let's get into some stuff. All right. When I need to wake up early in the morning, when I need to be a little clear-headed, I take Secretagogue Gold before going to bed. This is expensive. It's about $60. It comes in packages and you mix it with water. You can get lemon flavor. You can get orange flavor. It's very good. And it helps you to get up in the morning and be fully awake. Because for whatever reason in project management, they love to have meetings early in the morning. I also take red Patex ginseng. This will get you going. Don't get the one with alcohol. Get the one without alcohol. They put alcohol in it so it goes directly into your bloodstream, but it just tastes very bitter. Peppermint, I take before a lecture or presentation. It shoots sugar to your brain. And peppermint is long since known to be something that enhances your cognitive faculties. So peppermint is very good for you. Hyperzyme A is good for your verbal skills. It helps you to communicate better verbally. This is 200 milligrams. I take 2 of these every day. And you'll find yourself spitting out like cool words and flowing with your speeches and lectures. So I take 2 of these every day. This I found to be really good. It's called Brain Charge, and this helps with your cognitive thinking process. I take 1 of these every day. 2 of them if I'm going to have a very tough day. Basic caffeine pill. If I'm going to have a long, tough day and I need to get boosted very quickly, I take a caffeine pill. I took too many once. You want to hear a funny story? This dumb woman, I took too many once and I was jittery. So I was holding her hand and she thought I was on drugs. And she tried to report me for being on drugs. And she went to the bathroom. You know what she did? She sniffed a line of cocaine. I'm like, you're reporting me for drugs and you're sniffing cocaine? Well, hypocrite. Okay. You can get this at GNC. It's called Brain Genius. It's very good. And this is really, really helps with the cognitive faculties. Really get you going. All right. I talked about you need to feel good. St. John's Wort. Get the right type. This one is not a strong potency, but if you can find the right type, it'll help you give you a better mood, positive mood. Now, I'm not supposed to be recommending this because it's considered like a drug, but Crave, Maga Kratom. This is addictive, very, very addictive. If you start taking it and you stop, you'll have withdrawal. Be very careful. But when you take it, you're going to be like, I'm so happy. The world is great. No problems in the world. It's going to make you feel really good. It's very hard to find. You can order it online. It's like the effect of taking, what do they call those things? An opiate. It's like an effect like that. In fact, this is really good because the reason why I stumbled onto this because I was on painkillers and I wanted to get off the painkillers and they recommended this to get off the painkillers. So when I started taking this, I'm like driving. I'm like, man, I feel really good. Why do I feel so good? I would love this to stay. If I would just want to stay in this moment forever. I realized it was coming from this. Max Aminos has a similar effect, but not as powerful. So this is a mixture of amino acids. When you start feeling positive and you visualize something, that's charging you. That's exactly what you want to do. All right. If you're feeling down and you need a little pickup, I will get B12. That gives you a little pump up and it helps you with your state. In fact, I need some right now. I'm feeling down. My wives are divorcing me. I'm feeling down. Okay. People they see, there's some ignorant people in the world. Like this one girl invited me to a party and I took some B12. She said I was taking some acid and threw me out. But I think it was because I was with a girlfriend and she liked me with a girlfriend. Literally had some big dudes come in and escort me out the party. And I said, do you want to see the B12 that I'm taking? I don't think so. And then this is what I said there. I said, I'm natural. I'm a vegan. She goes, a vegan? I don't know what that means. I'm like, boy, you're dumb. Anyway. Lion's mane is really good. It's a smart shroom. Okay. Now, for relaxation, I take this, anxiety and stress relief. Nature's Bounty. This is really good. Really good. To relax you, it's all natural. It's like, makes you feel positive. This one is good for cognitive faculties. I used to take a lot of it. It was great. Cognisa. This is very good. And Neural Ignite is what I replaced this with. And this is good. This also contains St. John's wort, so it'll make you feel good. And it has a good potency of it too. So anything with neurotropics is about combining. The way you do this is you have to experiment a lot. I would probably take this too. This is what I did and see the effects. You have to watch the effects. Take this too, listen to Kierkegaard, and then I would see how I feel the next day. Or, which is what I do, I take the brain charge and Hyperzyme A and then see how I do that day. I took one combination, damn thing put me to sleep. I was like, oh, I can't take those together. So you may need to experiment and take combining them until you come up with a formula that works for you. Most of this stuff works well together because it's all natural. So try it. There is not one pill that works. I'm sorry, there is not. I wish I could say, oh, you just take this and you'll be good. No, it doesn't work. You have to take a combination of things. You know what I mean? To get you going. But if you find the right mixture, which is what I have found, you'll be like a genius. You won't shut up. You'll be like, I have answers. Any questions so far?
Is the GABA, would you recommend that too, or is that?
Oh, I forgot that. Good point. Yeah, the GABA. Make sure you get the GABA. So here's what we do. When we need to get into the theta state, it's very hard to do that sometimes. The theta state is when you're meditating and you lose awareness of the fact that you're meditating, but you still have some control in your visualization. So what I do is I take GABA and I take anxiety relief 30 minutes before I sleep. All right. And then I meditate after about 30 minutes. I let that take effect and I meditate. What you're going to find is that you may start to fall asleep, wake yourself up, and keep the visualization going. All right? So now let's get into the good stuff. What they found out was that super learners were using classical music to learn because they found that the composers used certain frequencies within the classical music that enhanced memorization and enhanced learning. So they would start teaching the Russian children or the Russian kids using classical music. So it works like this: 8 beats, 8 seconds, 8 seconds of pause. I'm sorry, 4 seconds of pause, 8 seconds of information. What do I mean by that? You'll need to start creating recordings. I use my iPhone, right? Let me see if I can play something very basic.
You love hard work. People love you.
Can you hear that?
People invite you into their social circle.
So you play the classical music, and on top of the classical music, you give yourself the information you need. So it'd be 4 seconds of pause, then 4 seconds of information. So it'd be the 4 seconds of pause, listen to classical music, then 4 seconds of me saying UAT, user acceptance testing. 4 seconds of pause. 4 seconds of information, FAT, file transfer protocol. 4 seconds of pause. And you continue on and on. You create that recording, then you meditate and go into trance and you listen to the recording. And then the information gets dumped into your subconscious mind. Follow me?
Yes.
Yes.
Does the frequency has anything to do with it?
That's another different thing. That's not.
Oh, okay.
But no, frequency has nothing to do with this. We are not dealing with frequency yet. Okay. Please listen. Can you hear that?
Yes.
I'm an expert project manager. User acceptance testing, UAT. FRD, Function Requirements Document. And so on. This music is going to relax you and then dump the information onto you. You cannot use any other music. It has to be the classical music by Baroque, if that's the best.
Yeah, I think the super learning talks about like the chord instruments.
Yeah.
Something with the chord instruments.
Now, if you really want to take this next level and you really want to be effective to where you'll just be an information walking encyclopedia, create a rhyme out of it. Rhyming is the best thing. If you connect things in a rhyming fashion, it'll take off. This is why I said that a lot of these rappers, you see, it's the music industry is set up to retard our progress. They know that those rappers, if they use certain frequencies and they use certain rhymes, could make us into geniuses overnight. But they won't do that. They won't reveal that information. This is why you don't hear much about the Russian program. Can you imagine teaching this to students? I tried the rhyming technique. It was so powerful. And I was like, so if these rappers are rhyming anyway, why don't they create the beats to rhyme and have information? Because the record companies don't want them to do that. And they would never want them to do that. And I can't believe it. It was like not one rapper has come along and thought about this process. When you have the beat, it communicates directly to the subconscious mind, that beat. And then you throw the information on there in a rhyming way, it emotionally moves you. Let me tell you the power of that. Not only will you become knowledgeable in that particular field, it'll take you to another level psychologically wise. You will be a powerful person. And it saddens me because they use all this talent for ego-based and not to uplift the psychology of the planet. Let me say it again. The beat combined with the rhythm will not only have you be a walking encyclopedia, but it will transform your thinking. You will have inspiration, epiphanies. Enlightenment will come to you, but they dare not do that. But I will, and I'm working on that. But for now, get you the classical track, take the information that I've given you. Do not try and bulk it all into one session. Do exactly what I told you. 4 beats, 4 seconds of the music, then the 4 seconds of the information. And continue on and on and on. And watch you pick everything up. Any questions? Now, there's certain other things you can do that will be just as effective. And going back to what Lear was saying was frequency. If we start working with binaural beats, we can increase our intelligence level. Let me give you an example. I've been working with Cognition Enhancer. I've been using this ever since coming to Vegas. This thing is powerful. This track is powerful. I noticed the difference immediately. Listen to this 30 minutes and you're good. So what I would do is I'd listen to that 30 minutes and take my nootropics. And I'd be like, but here's the trick. It wears off. So you have to condition the brain to stay in that pattern by repeatedly listening to it day after day after day. It creates a synaptic connection to where the brain will start to stay in that mode. Now, to address the amen problem, which is you're always stressed out, and even in the book, it talks about you're not going to be a super learning unless you learn how to be relaxed, total, complete relaxation. And a lot of the problems with our relaxation comes out of fear. So the no fear zone subliminal is perfect. I've used this one and it's helped so much, especially for meetings. This has relaxed so much and cured me of a lot of anxieties. Go, go, that's it, great. I think I'm going to make some love to my wife. Anyway. Because naturally, because of my upbringing, I have a lot of anxiety, and I need to learn how to deal with that. Now, the other way of learning something fairly quickly is to teach it. So a lot of times, when I wanted to really, really become good in the subject matter, I would teach it. The other thing you can do is when you take notes of a meeting and you want to make sure that you retain the information, read the notes back to you out loud, not mentally, out loud. So just stand there and start reading the notes back to you. It creates what we call the feedback loop. It's a big part of what this book talks about, the feedback loop. That's how you acquire things really quickly. Now, another thing that works really, really well when you're doing your meditation is that if you want to be good at something, the brain always looks for a reference point. So think back to a success that you may have had. Like I'll think back to a successful meeting. And then anchor that and tie that into the upcoming meeting. So for example, if I have a meeting coming up that I'm very stressed about, I'll go into meditation and I'll start to relive the meeting that I was successful at. And then I'll quickly transition to the new meeting and see myself being successful at that. The mind doesn't understand the difference in the emotion or the difference in the situation. It just understands that emotion is here now, and now you're associating or anchoring that emotion with the upcoming meeting. And that positive feeling will create relaxation, and you'll start to get information and knowledge. Because you have to understand, we never forget anything. Everything is stored within us in Akashic Records. Everything. The only problem that we have is accessing it. And a lot of times we don't access it because we don't have positive feelings associated with these things. Or they weren't important enough when we learned them. So they're not cataloged correctly in our subconscious mind for us to access it. And a lot of that has to do with learning is how you feel about something and your motivation behind it. If you have a strong motivation to learn something and you associate a positive emotion with learning, you'll do very well. Our kids in school today don't have a positive emotion about learning because they don't understand why it's important for them to learn certain things, because those things don't really have real world application. A lot of things you learn, you don't really use in the real world. You're never going to use trigonometry. Why learn it? That's why a lot of people have problems with it. You know? So it's about tying the emotion into the learning, feeling good about it, and then visualizing it, charging it. Any questions?
What's guiding me through, Ron, is just learning things that I want to know about. Like I want to know about this. So I'll put that emotion behind it, like, ooh, this intrigues me. So things like that.
Good. So what are you struggling with? Is there any particular area you're struggling with?
Mine was like my short-term memory. So I've been working with the Qigong, some mantras for that. So
yeah, the Qigong mantras are very, very powerful. I haven't even touched upon that, but maybe I've done another time. But those are very good. So Aaron, what are you struggling with right now? Aaron? Okay. I would say pick an archetype and then visualize yourself as that person. That will help. Lyra, what are you struggling with right now?
Feeling tired because I travel. I'm back to work. So it's just that feeling of tiredness.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. There's a ginseng for that. Are you taking something for that?
Usually I take multivitamins, B complex.
Multivitamins don't work. The B complex is not going to do it. You need something strong. Get that B12, get that ginseng. You need a mixture.
Okay.
You got Ron. Like, what you mean, Aaron? You got Ron right here. It could be the archetype.
Yeah. Who do you like? Just who do you admire, Aaron? Like, who do you see as the good person? Stephen Hawking. You know what I mean? Who do you admire?
Robert Smith.
Okay.
That's the stock guy, right? No, billionaire.
You know, Lyra, I'm telling you that you're being tired is not your struggle. That's not going to be the struggle.
Okay.
Being tired is easy to overcome. You're gonna stumbling blocks that you're gonna have. I mean, real stumbling blocks that you need to overcome. So you should think about that. Is it technical knowledge? Is it terms? What is it exactly? That's the thought. Is it just anxiety?
Say again.
You know,
Broke up. You broke up a little bit.
I said, is it anxiety or is it public speaking?
It's not that. Maybe it's just. I won't say short-term memory, but
Your thinking is slow. Your thinking is slow, and that's not good. I'm being honest with you. That's not good. Your thinking is too slow.
I just related back to me being tired because just fatigued.
It's not tired. You need to be at a point where. Let me tell you something. I don't like hearing excuses from people, and I'm gonna tell you why. I have suicidal depression. Do you know what that means? That I don't just have depression. I have depression to where I have suicidal thoughts. It's control. You know what I mean? Control. If I control that and still like block everything else, you guys should be able to get off these little things that you're facing. Because they're little. In my mind, they're little. There's no reason for you not to be able to quickly think. Come off with things. I know you're tired. I'm tired. I'm up since 5:30 a.m. But you need to be on as a project manager all the time. There's no I'm tired. There's no I'm depressed. You must have answers. You must be on the ball. And let me tell you something. When you get it and it works, it's going to help you so much in life. You're going to rock it in life. You know, I wish I was in you guys' situation to where I didn't have pain, I didn't have depression. I wish I was like that. I was thinking that today. I said, man, I wish I could just have a day without depression. Or not have to take something for it. But you don't ever see me come on here going, I'm depressed. I'm feeling dark.
No, that's true.
Because I identify what the problem is and I take action. And tonight I have to go out. What time is it? 9 p.m. I know it's later where you guys are. I have to go out. And then I got to make some instructional videos when I come back. I'm not picking on any one person, but I'm saying as you guys have so much potential that you have not explored yet. But you're taught and conditioned to limit yourself. So go beyond that. Go beyond where you're at now. Don't be satisfied with who you are now. There's so much potential that you have, so much that you can do, more that you can do, so much more money you could be making. And nothing's holding you back from doing it. And I used to, when I was reality manifestation program, and I was telling people, when I started out, I didn't have Shechem or Shechem right here to teach me personally or to answer my questions personally. If you wanted to talk to him, you had to set up an appointment and hope you can get the appointment. I never had access to a guru who I could just go online and talk to and get questions answered. You guys have that. Take advantage of that. You know what I mean? You don't know, like, we're in the information age. We have the internet. You can learn anything. You can learn anything. You can Google anything. Start living up to your potential. You're not right now. You're not. And some of your thinkings are slow because you're not conditioned yet to be quick on your feet. You're not conditioned yet to use all your cognitive faculties. Every day I'm hard on myself. I'm like, man, why didn't I do this? Why is this happening? Why? I was talking to my friend, she's a therapist. She says, you're beating yourself up for no reason. You're doing well. You just don't realize it. But that's because I have a thirst to take it to the next level. When I get to that level, I want to take it to the next level and then take it to the next level. I got into project management. I learned project management, but I wanted to learn UX too. So I learned UX. I wanted to learn requirements gathering. I learned requirements gathering. I wanted to learn development. I got into development. Once the brain learns something and you continue, it becomes easier and easier and easier. You understand? The tiredness that you feel is just a suggestion. That's the body trying to suggest something to you. Don't accept it. The other day I did that to myself. I was like, feeling tired, and I was like, no, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to create this instructional video tonight. I promised 3 friends I'll go out with them the other night, and I was dead tired. I said, well, I'm going to go out because, there's no reason for me just to sit home and do nothing. I've got this course. I got this company. I'm training and teaching them and working on their projects. I got my own other stuff going on. So I'm rocking it, man. Plus I have all the personal consultations and stuff. My phone doesn't stop ringing. And this chick that'll call me back. I don't know what's up with it. Anyway. I hate that. She knows I asked her out. She's playing hard to get, so she needs to get on top of it. Guys, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. But I keep it humorous so you guys don't get too serious about it, get stressed out. I don't want you to get stressed out. All right? But I do want you to push yourself. Yes, about pushing yourself, saying that you could do more, you can go for more. You know what I mean? Any questions?
Thank you for the motivation, Ron.
Yeah.
Needed that.
Lear, you can do it. You can do it.
But I need to buy the supplements. Apparently, I get up at 3. I have a full day. I don't get home until around this time. So it's just that I guess it's the supplements. I mean,
Yeah, just go get you some good stuff and then rock and roll. You know what I mean? Rock and roll. There is so much time in the day. And there's this is a pivotal point, man. You know what I said to myself today when I created this new track? I created a new track of super learning. I said, this is changing the direction of my life now. Because now I want to learn some more stuff. And I'm going to do some super learning. For all of you, this is the fork in the road. Go back to doing what you were doing before and not grow. Push yourself. Push yourself. You know what I mean?
so okay, with these supplements, are you taking them by themselves or are you having them with meals? What are you doing?
Well, you have to
nutrition wise.
If you don't take them, if you take them by themselves, you're going to get sick. So you have to eat first and take them.
Okay.
It's very important. I used to take them by themselves and get sick and throw up. So you have to be very careful. Yeah.
And does any of them make you crash afterwards?
No, after a crash. No. That's caffeine. That's like caffeine stuff.
Okay.
If you're drinking caffeine, are you eating like candy or something? That'll make you crash big time.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But set your goals, especially like, for example, where you want to be in 10 years. Start thinking about that. Start thinking about it in terms of career-wise and monetarily, where you want to be. And then visualize, meditate every darn day, man. Meditate and see the day and say, this is the day I want. Even if it's a little thing. You know, it'll happen. If you meditate, it will happen. It will manifest. It has no choice. That's the law. So meditate on seeing things. If you and the other day I was mad because I wasn't getting a lot of things done. And I said, oh, I just need to do things incrementally. Small things add up to bigger things. Piecemeal. You don't have to think that tomorrow you win $1 million. Doesn't don't think that. But just break things down into small, different components. And then look at the result and feel good about them. And then keep moving. Don't stop. But don't believe these guys who come along and just lecture and talk about motivation. No. The way you change who you are in the world is through meditation. Programming. If I'm having problems with friends, family, I meditate to see them all us talking and being harmonious together. I don't worry about having to call them up or apologize and talk about, can't we just all be friends? Just meditate on that. All right?
All right.
Got it.
Look at that. All right. It's not all right. All right. Act like I'm trying to ask her to go to falls in a barrel. No,
Yeah, you are.
Liz, what motivates you, Lear?
Good question. It was the income, but not so much anymore.
Okay. Give that some thought and then work on it. All right. Thank you, guys. And we'll reconvene on Thursday. Until then, remember, reality doesn't exist apart from the observer. And just rock it, man. Rock it. All right?
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.